Welcome to the Village Media, where Black voices meet politics, culture, and change. You're in the group chat, and we're bringing you the real conversations about topics that are trending and some that are not. From time to time, we'll have special guests. Some conversations will be crazy, others insightful, just like your group chat. So hit the subscribe button and stay locked in with us. I'm Alyssa Williams. You have Desi Brown and Anthony Holt. All right, we are going to start with the big ugly bill. So, some of y'all may be familiar that just last week, the big ugly bill, also known as the big beautiful bill, as dubbed by Republicans, passed the House, and that was after weeks of contention. Um, what was interesting about it is that Democratic minority leader Hakeem Jeffries took to the Senate floor early Friday morning at about 5 a.m. to filibuster for about or to leave remarks. It wasn't quite a filibuster, for remarks for over 8 hours, so that a vote that was supposed to take place in the wee hours of the morning actually was able to take place so the whole world could see it. And that makes sure that everyday Americans like you and I actually know what's in that bill. So as the bill passed, one of the biggest criticisms was what it was going to do to cut some of the services that are available to the most vulnerable Americans. So we talk about, I think the way it was set up was about $930 billion are to be stripped from Medicaid. 17 million folks are to lose health care. 3 million are to lose food assistance through SNAP. And it's expected that about $400 or that folks will see an increase on their energy bills by about $400 a year. And Black Americans will be hit the hardest. So there are a couple things, and we'll pop this up here in a second. But knowing when the cuts actually begin, because the Republicans were really sneaky about how they set up this bill, how they structured it, so that even after the midterms, that Democrats would be responsible, or it would be, should they lose, that people would feel this pain at the end of the Trump term. So something that has stood out, that we should be at least anticipate this year is that higher standard deduction for tax cuts that starts this year. The no taxes on tips and overtime that also starts this year, and state and local tax cap increases also starts this year. Now, what are some of the things that are delayed? Medicare and food stamp funding, it starts in 2028. Now we all know that that's when we have the next election. So should a Democrat win, we know that these things will go into effect then. Um, we also know that new rules on health insurance, which are set to kick folks off of Obamacare potentially, as well as Medicaid, or the new requirements where there's some additional work requirements for folks on Medicaid. Those start in 2026. So I start with that, setting the stage. Uh, we've talked a little bit about this bill, but I want to actually hear from you all. What was the importance of Hakeem Jeffries taking to the floor to make sure that we all could see what was happening?
I think that was very important, and I think that has to continue too. I believe because I mean, they did it purposely. It was done purposely. First of all, if it goes past midterms, if people are not really feeling it yet, they might not. They might still vote a certain way. They're not feeling the impacts yet. So I think the job has to be to continue to explain what it is, show what it is, when it's going to hit, what it's going to do, and keep hammering that, because there's going to be other distractions and stuff that come. Terrorists came up again today.
Yeah.
There's going to be other things that distract, but I think the thing is just to continue to hone on it. And when that happens, when it comes in, know the reason why, know why these things are happening, know, and just to continue. Like what he did should be something that they just should keep their foot on the gas with, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, he set a record for the I
Mhm,
guess the longest time as well, and yeah, it was very important that he did that because at least people got to see it and people got to understand, and it raised a lot of questions like, okay, why is he doing this? What does it mean?
mhm,
And I even saw a clip where he was talking about they only needed a few Republicans to
mhm.
overturn this, and you didn't even get that many. It was like 4 or 5. It wasn't a very big
Needed
number.
4. They needed 4, and because there were 2 Republicans who voted against, and they just needed 4. So it was just
Yeah.
a few folks,
Right.
but, 218 Republicans voted in favor of stripping away Medicare and Medicaid,
Yeah,
to
and you know
America.
how people are. People will forget,
Hmm.
and by the time some of these things go into play, the Democrats, if they get control again, then they'll still have to fight this, whether it's in 2 years or in 4 years. And so they were definitely
Yeah.
sneaky the way they kind
Oh
of
yeah.
tried to roll it out,
The blame
rolling
will
out.
go there. That's
Yeah,
where they'll blame. They'll blame it.
yeah,
They'll blame it there.
Yep.
That'll be the sound bites. They'll blame it there. But that's why I said I think everybody who voted for it, their face should be. I mean, like they should be held to the fire like
Yep.
daily. They should be. It should be talked about. It should be. We should be having push town halls in their city, letting in their districts, letting them know what. I mean, that's what you have to do. You have to do that because they will change the narrative. The narrative will change quickly.
Mhm. So that's exactly right, Anthony. The town halls that we saw, particularly early in the year, that where we were seeing folks erupting with anger at their representatives, that's how you hold their foot to the fire. So,
Mhm.
with that, we will keep folks updated on, when new provisions roll out, additional implications that are happening, particularly as it relates to the Black community. We'll do a little spotlight in the coming weeks, just so that folks know how this can affect your everyday. So, I'm going to do a hard pivot because, Uh, big news this week, or a big top story this week that's been trending, is Essence Fest. One of the three of us got to go to Essence Fest, and Desi, I want to know. I've been seeing a lot happening on social about what Essence Fest was, what it wasn't. My first question is, were people there? Because that's the big question that's standing out. Were there people
Yeah, there were a lot of people there. There were not as many people there as in the past years, but I don't think that's no fault of Essence. I think it more so has to do with the economy right now. People aren't spending money the same way. People aren't traveling the same way. So you could see the difference there in the attendance from that standpoint, and then also from a resources and like a sponsor standpoint. Some of the big partners had pulled out, and some of the vendors and different things like that. So, but that's kind of to be understood. Like the last few years, we've had a partnership with the events that I do with Jack Daniels, and Jack Daniels didn't have the budget this year to do all the events that they normally do with us. So we had to do things a little bit differently than we have the past couple of years. Um, but I know everyone definitely wants to talk about Target.
there?
So so
Yes.
Target was there, and the funny thing about Target being there was the bold red that they normally have. You didn't see that. It was like a pink color, and so I passed it a couple of times. I was there with my fiance, and we passed by it like 2 or 3 times, and you're kind of looking at an activation. You're like, man, what is that over there? And we finally like stopped and looked, and noticed that it was like half of the bullseye, and
Mhm.
but it was like a pinkish color, and then the gift bags that they were giving people were not marked either.
Wow.
So it wasn't in the main area like it normally is. It was kind of to the side towards the back, So they were kind of strategic the way they did that for
Mhm.
sure.
Oh
So
wow.
do we, obviously there was still there's obviously an active boycott going on, but we also know that Target was a longtime sponsor. So,
Yeah.
assuming the sponsorship agreement took place well before the boycott even began. So this was already an activation that was going to be set. did you notice folks actively boycotting at the at Essence Fest, not going, or did you feel that people were like, "Hey, we're just going to go with vibes?"
There were some that were boycotting, but then you had a lot of people that really didn't care,
Mhm,
and like I saw a lot on the internet, people feeling a way about it. But what's very interesting, there were a lot of other problems with Essence Festival, like the concerts. They were
mhm,
running behind a lot.
mhm,
The sound system was a problem, and so what you're starting to see now, I know coming up in a couple of weeks. Ryan Wilson from the Gathering Spot, they're
mhm,
having a big event in Atlanta talking about what it takes to put events together. So that should be a very interesting conversation. And so it's Ryan, it's Morgan from Blavity and
mhm,
Afrotech.
mhm,
I believe Jay Carter with One Music Fest.
mhm,
And then I know they have a representative from Essence that's going to be a part of it also. But it's just really interesting when you think about it because yeah, people want to say no, they shouldn't have took the target money, but the target money is kind of what helps that whole thing go along
yeah,
with the other sponsors. And it's like, okay, if you don't take that, then you may not have some of the funds to put the event together the way you want to. So it's kind of a catch 22. A
mhm,
lot of times I feel like you can't you can't say one thing and do another, and you also can't. It's very difficult to try to justify it because the way social media is. If you take the money, then you try to justify it, you're going to look even worse.
absolutely.
So, what I've been seeing a lot with Essence is they haven't had like that one representative that has been saying anything. It's kind of like, no, this is Essence and it's its own thing, and you just see Target there, but it's nobody really just having that conversation.
It's a really tough situation, I think. They're definitely between a rock and a hard place. I think, it will be good for folks to join that event in Atlanta to be able to hear what it takes to put on events because it is hard and sponsorships
all
do
right.
make things go.
Mhm.
I also think that, I've heard chatter and would love maybe even your opinion on this, Anthony, is some of the chatter on Essence Fest is it time to move locations?
That's
Do
what I was
we
gonna.
think that there is an opportunity to spread the love? And I know our economy is in a very uncertain time, so that could have played a role in folks maybe not attending. But also, location, does it matter? Do we think that it's time to shift where Essence Fest is held?
That was one of the questions I was gonna ask too. I know it's been a staple in New Orleans, and I know you have, and Desi can attest more than that. I mean, he goes every year. I guess the atmosphere, the Bourbon Street, the way it's located, the way things are set up. I guess it would have to be a city that can be similar, so it's not so spread out. Because some cities are more spread out, which will make it harder to
Yeah.
attend. So it has to be one of those cities that has that similar feel where you can walk around, you can
Mhm.
walk to each event, you can go. You ain't got to drive, be an hour and a half in traffic to get to somewhere else. So I think that would be logistic wise one of the issues outside of that. But I think from I have to ask, pass it to Desi too, from someone who goes. I mean, every year, does he feel that it's somewhere, sometime, to change it? Versus, it would be convenient for for me if it was in LA or something like that, but I don't know if it would work the same. So I
Right.
mean, what do you think? I was gonna ask that question too. So what do you think?
Yeah, it's very interesting because, like, if you think about the way New Orleans is, New Orleans, even though it's a small city, it has major events all the time, from
Right.
Jazz Fest to NBA All Star weekends to Super Bowls. And I just don't know if it would work somewhere else the
Mhm.
same way because if you think about LA, for instance, if you move Essence Fest to LA, there are so many other things that are happening
Right.
in LA on a regular basis. Like, LA can barely support NFL teams, let alone like a big event of this magnitude. So, and then you have to wonder about the drive-in
Mhm.
areas, right? Because a lot of people are, I'm flying in from Dallas, but you can drive from Dallas, you can drive from Houston,
Mhm.
all
Right.
over Louisiana. People are driving in from Mississippi and
Mhm.
Alabama, and from Atlanta and other parts of Georgia. So you just have to think about that also, because if you alienate that those drive-in markets,
Mhm.
now that's a whole nother thing to kind of think about too.
Right. It would almost have to be something like Atlanta,
Mhm.
Houston, somewhere down. It would have to. I think it would have to stay in the South.
I think so
Yeah.
too. I think so too. Okay, well, that's that. I guess that's it for Essence Fest. But actually, I do have a bonus question, and it's not maybe just about Essence Fest. It's just generally, how do we feel about sacred cultural spaces, right? So Essence Fest does feel like a very sacred cultural
Mhm.
space and very, very meaningful in this moment. Um, you know, particularly as people are stuck on, for years we were stuck in the house, then we're back outside, and now our culture is trying to be erased. And so where we look at all that's going on, how do we preserve those spaces, and where's the value there, Anthony?
I think it's tough. I mean, it's tough because a lot of people are digging in for survival mode right now, and trying to navigate, day to day, with
Mhm.
everything that's changing. So I think it's tough. And I think a lot of people, took that in consideration when they thought about going to travel and party, especially those who may have to travel further,
Mhm.
to get there. So I think, I mean, we need these and we want these because it is. I mean, it's for us. It's for us to get together. It's for us to celebrate. It's for us to network. It's for. I mean, it's so many different things, and even just partying. It's so many different things you can do with these type of events. But I think right now a lot of people are focused on the fight in front of us,
Yep.
and I think once we can get a handle on that, we can always. We just showed, like you said, it was COVID. It was other things that came back booming. We can bring things back, or we can get things back booming again. But I think right now we have to make sure that there's going to be a foundation to be able to do any of those things.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's definitely a sacred space. And the other thing, when you think about it, is there was a lot of negativity around it, from the way the run of the show was this
Hmm.
year. They were running behind. They even had to come out and apologize to Lauren Hill.
Mhm.
Everyone assumed that Lauren Hill performing late was
Was
her
her
fault,
fault.
but this
Hmm.
was the one time that it was Essence fault. And so but while we're having these conversations, it's almost like when you go to a black owned restaurant, you
Mhm.
hold them to a higher standard.
Higher
Like
standards.
if you go to a white owned spot and they mess up your steak, it's almost just like, oh, well, they had a bad day, and hopefully it'll be better next time. But sometimes when a black owned restaurant messes something up, we go to social media, we tell everybody about our experience and never go back. And it seems like that's kind of happening
I
with
think so.
Essence right now. So people are being super, super tough. And it's almost like these are some internal conversations that we may
Right.
need to have. These
Right.
shouldn't be, open for
All over.
discussion with
Yeah.
everybody, because
Yeah.
that's kind of what the opposition wants us to do, is
Yep.
get rid of these
Hmm.
spaces and places like this. So
I
Yeah,
it's
think
because
just
it was all over. I mean, that's what I was saying. That's why I texted you when you was there. I'm like, man, is this? I mean,
yeah.
what I'm seeing is this what's going on? And we are worst enemy at times, man. We just
yeah.
jump on and we jump onto the trend, and then we want to be funny, and then we want to do this and do that, not knowing we just, we're making it harder for ourselves and for us to have anything, because like we said earlier, we don't, how hard it is to put something on like this, and we don't know the internal issues. They may been working on minimal funds than what they were working on, prior.
Yeah.
They may have been piecing things together. So I mean that still could hurt someone's experience who goes and pay, but we just don't know what was going on. Just to just pound and pound and pound, and in some cases it may be time, if it can't be produced the right way, then maybe bring it back and bring it back bigger and better the next time, once we have everything together, if that's going to be an issue moving forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think what I'm hearing, and particularly from you, Jesse, is it's time for community. It's time for us to come together and figure out how we do this on our own, how we support one another, how we don't bash or tear down, how we figure out how we uplift and make it an experience
Mhm.
that everyone wants to engage in. And if it is, to your point, Anthony, of like, is it time to rebrand it, refresh it, not rebrand, excuse me, refresh it? maybe that's what it is. And
Hmm.
with events that we have going on in other places, like where you have the Gathering Spot founder, as well as Morgan from Afrotech, coming together and to explain what's going on. It's like, how do you bring that wealth of knowledge, that even that power together to preserve some of those sacred spaces, in a
Yeah.
collaborative way? I think that's an opportunity as well.
Yeah, and it's like, you want to have constructive criticism.
Yep.
So often we just bash things
Right.
and tear things down with no real feedback. It's like, okay, I can accept the feedback if it's constructive, but just don't
Exactly.
tell me it was terrible and you're never coming back. Like, help me out, help me help you type
Right.
of thing. Yeah.
Right.
All right, we're going to shift over to sports, the world of trades in the NBA. So a lot has happened over the last few weeks since we were last together, between the NBA draft as well as um, all the trades, some blockbuster trades that have taken place, particularly with Kevin Durant in the 7-team trade, as well as is LeBron leaving LA? What's happening? So that's been a hot topic that has come to light over the last week or so. So just to give a little context, really, like, LeBron's been a hot topic. He kind of broke with his tradition, and it had raised some folks' eyebrows. So the first thing he did is he picked up his $52.6 million player option to return to the Lakers, and that's a departure from his previous approach, which was to opt out of his contract, then renegotiate a 2-year deal with the team with a player option for the second year. And then his longtime friend and agent released a statement, and we'll pop up the statement. But really, it said, and I quote: "LeBron wants to compete for a championship. He knows the Lakers are building for the future. He understands that, but he values a realistic chance of winning it all. We are very appreciative of the partnership that we've had for 8 years with Jeannie Buss and Rob Pelinka, and consider the Lakers as a critical part of his career. We understand the difficulty in winning now while preparing for the future. We do want to evaluate what's best for LeBron at this stage in his life and career. He wants to make every season he has left count, and the Lakers understand that, are supportive, and want what's best for him." So LeBron is 40. He turns 41 at the end of this year. Is he
Mhm.
staying? Is he going?
I think. I mean, he's putting it on the Lakers right now. If they can you build something that's a championship contender. And I think if he is, going about, wanting to win championships, what they have right now isn't championship team.
Mhm.
Where he could go and all that, that's anybody's, guess at this point. But if he's serious about championship, because he was on the podcast, his podcast, and it was like it wasn't really about championship or something like that. I think recently, so I don't know if this is more to put some fire under the Lakers, where he got him and Luca right now to
Yep.
put something together, because I got a few years and we need to put something together, or it's also his new ownership coming in too. Um, so if it is about winning, then
Yeah.
there's a
Yep.
possibility, if it's really about winning the championship, because that's not a championship team right there right now.
No, and we also know that Desi's team, the Mavericks, is now stacked. So, uh,
And Houston,
making the West really competitive. So,
yeah,
Desi, what's your 2 cents?
Yeah, you see, I think LeBron trying to get over to the Mavericks now that he see what they kind of putting together. But I kind of feel like I think LeBron and KD are kind of competing on to see who can play with the most Hall of Famers in one career. You know what I mean? So they. I remember back in the day. I'm an old bad boy Pistons fan, and you
Mhm.
know typically you play and bring the championship to you. You don't leave and try to go get a championship. So it's like, how many
nah, but
Hall of
see,
Famers do you need, man?
KD ain't going. He's not going to a. Now these kids may be future Hall of Famers, but he's not going to a. KD's not going to a team stacked with Hall of Famers.
And for once,
KD,
right? I
KD
mean,
he's the Hall of Fame coming there to bring that there, and and so he didn't run over to
when
to chase a
they
ring. He's going to
said
create one.
When they
Well,
said 7-team trade, I was like, I wonder how many of them teams you done played for already out of them 17s.
right.
Look, man,
But
we
let's talk
know,
about
we
that.
know, we know. Kyrie don't twist that ankle at Brooklyn. That Brooklyn move will look a whole lot different than how it looks right now. James Harden wasn't healthy. KD was coming off injury, and Kyrie twisted that ankle. You see what they did to the Bucks in that first, where they beat them by 30 something in their first game. So,
I don't
that
believe it.
KD is hard for me. And people act like Golden State was just a shoe in to win all these championships. They got beat when they won those 70 some games. They lost a 3-1 lead and
They
lost.
won
We
before he
came
got
in and
there and after he
won.
left,
They won.
and
Won.
won
So they act
before
people act
and
like
after.
they won about 4 championships before KD got there. They won one. He was the best
Before,
player. He was the best player on those two. And if he didn't hurt his Achilles in that third, they would have won 3 in a row with him. And
before
yes,
and after.
one.
One before,
They won two, and they won two with him.
right?
So yeah.
And how many he won without them?
And you know if he wasn't on that team, they wasn't beating
I
Cleveland.
agree, but how many has he won without them? And he's played with other Hall of Famers.
That's like I said, Brooklyn would look a whole lot different if it weren't
And
for
I
those.
love, look, I love Kyrie, but I also saw Kyrie play without LeBron. I saw Kyrie play in Boston. I saw
Mhm.
Kyrie do a lot of things that didn't lead to winning either. I
That
seen
Brooklyn team, I go back to that Brooklyn team. You take away that injury, it might be a whole different
I've seen
conversation
James
on
Harden
all
play
that
with a
right
lot of
now.
Hall of Famers. I've seen
It
him,
would have been, it would have been a whole
and I
different
ain't seen him
conversation.
win no ring
But
either.
things happen. Injuries are part of the game, so we
Yeah.
can't see. But
But
yeah, that KD slander is too much sometimes.
I do want to talk quickly
He
about that.
might watch this. He might watch this and comment, man, he too weak.
Get out
Stop,
of
man.
here.
Stop.
I do want to talk about that 17 deal. The trade is wild. So, Anthony, you are a resident basketball expert. What's your take on the craziness of that 17 deal?
I think the main piece is KD.
Yeah.
Everything moves around KD. So
Yes.
all the other pieces are just moved, to fit KD in Houston. And to me, like I said, that was a prime move because I look at that Houston team. What they needed was somebody who can close out the games.
Hmm.
That's the piece that was missed. I love, Green. He's a nice young player. He'll probably be a great player down the road. But right now, with that squad, they need someone that can close the game. You got Tom. They got a nice nucleus there. And I think they got one more piece. They in the running to get
Hmm.
a solid point guard too. I don't know as Chris Paul made a move or anything yet. So it's like they still got spot for another a veteran point guard there, and they can.
Yeah, because I think
They
Chris
They
Paul
got
just said
Fred
issue of
VanVleet.
his last year.
No, but I know they got Van Vliet, but I'm talking about they need another. You
Yeah.
need another guard. I think
Chris
Chris,
Paul
he
will
don't have
come
to
to
play. Hmm?
he'll come to Golden State or Dallas.
Chris,
Yeah.
I think he'll go. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
All right. Well, I'm gonna wrap us up. That we've touched on politics, we've touched on culture, and we've touched on sports. So there's so much going on in the world today. It's hard to juggle it all, but it's always in the group chat. So stay locked in with us. We'll continue to keep you updated on what's going on, what's happening across all the things that are happening within our culture. So stay locked in.